Hello, this is Gray Hughes of Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button, share the video, and subscribe to my channel, but really hit that like button because that helps out my channel a lot. Today's video is going to be regarding the Idahofour murder case of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison, Mogen, and Kaylee Gonzalez. And the killer was Bryan Kohberger, and he admits it. Now, there's still people out there that believe that he didn't do it and he's somehow just taking a bullet for something else. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I guess he's not really taking a bullet. He's going to be in prison for the rest of his life, but he's not going to be allowed to have appeals. Or if he does try to appeal, the fact that he signed that he is waiving his rights to appeal will make those appeals very unlikely to be successful. But what I'm going to be talking about is why I think, or what happened regarding the appeals. I think I know exactly how it all went down. Now, before we get to that, however, let's talk about a couple updates in other cases really quick. Richard Allen, the killer in the Delphi case, who also confessed in that case many times, he's being transferred to an Oklahoma prison. Richard Allen, the man convicted in the Delphi murders, that's in Indiana, has been moved to prison in Oklahoma, the Lexington Assessment and Reception Center, a maximum security facility. List Allen as an inmate on July 17th. Allen is currently serving a 130-year sentence. Boy, he's sure going to be old when he gets out, for the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German, which occurred in February of 2017. So that's the news on him. And there's another case we've been covering for years, the Stephen Stearns case. Now, Stephen Stearns' sex criminal trial is set to begin on Tuesday, but a plea hearing has been scheduled for Monday at 1:30 p.m. that could cancel that trial. The plea deal would not only cover the sexual battery and possession of child pornography charges, but it would also include the murder charges, which is a whole separate case, and that would have been handled in a separate trial. So it says the plea deal would cover the sexual battery and possession of child pornography charges plus the murder charge, which would be handled in a separate trial. Sources say the plea would mean life in prison as opposed to risking a death sentence if the case goes to trial. So it's absolutely very similar to the Kohberger situation. I mean, Stephen Stearns is an absolute barbarian, killed Madeline Soto and just, abused her and killed her after years of, taking photographs of her. I mean, just an absolutely disgusting pile of crap, just like Bryan Kohberger. All right, so what I think happened in the Bryan Kohberger case is that Ann Taylor, she's somebody that I, thought was, man, she's so lazy. I mean, all those months, every single time there's a hearing, I haven't had time to look at the surveillance, I haven't had time to look at this, I just don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. She said that over and over and over again. And, I was just always wondering, I mean, if it was any of us, I mean, we are all so interested in the case that if we had gotten that discovery, we would pour through it with incredible interest. But I think the truth is that Ann Taylor realized early on, just by looking at the discovery, some of the early discovery that she got, that her client absolutely is the killer, and she had zero doubt. Yes, she said all the same things that everybody always says. This is the one case I really believe my guy is innocent. But she never thought he was innocent. And she's always thought that. And I think she, early on, was even trying to get him to accept a plea deal, probably a year and a half ago or so. And Kohberger wouldn't do it. He wanted to keep playing the game. So they went through all of the different hearings and attempted motions, and I guess from that standpoint, Ann Taylor did as much as she could. Just different hearings, trying to suppress this, the DNA. I mean, that was never going to happen. The information that the FBI got was merely a tip that was given to the Moscow Police Department, and then it was advanced out, and probably even the Idaho State Police. And they looked into Bryan Kohberger after getting the lead, and it turned out that Bryan Kohberger's DNA was on the knife sheath after they took a swab from him. They were only able to, when they got the trash from Kohberger's house, it turned out to be the biological father of the contributor, the single source of DNA that was found on the knife sheath. And that was enough, however, to arrest Bryan Kohberger, because he's the only male son that the Kohbergers had. So they arrested him and gave him a cheek swab, and the DNA matched. And when they were looking into Bryan Kohberger, it turns out that he drives a 2015 white Elantra missing a front plate, and that's when they must have had chills when they found out that he drove a white Elantra. I mean, absolutely, they were probably shocked out of their minds. And so from that day forward, it was obvious they had the right guy. And I think Ann Taylor, looking through all the information, just absolutely knows 100% that Bryan Kohberger is the killer. So she tried all these different techniques and methods. And then she's been trying to get him to plead, and Kohberger just wouldn't do it. But now in the 11th hour, right before trial, they probably turned to Kohberger and said, man, we don't have many more options here. He goes, okay, just try a couple more things. So they tried the Dateline special and how that interfered with the chances of getting a jury that wasn't spoiled. They tried to get that. Then they tried to do the third-party suspect attempt by putting out 4 different names. I mean, just that alone shows you that they're just desperate. 4 different random people that aren't connected to each other, and you're going to throw that out there as a third-party suspect. And they hoped that one of those might stick for a while, that the Dateline might have set back the trial a few months, and that would have given more time to maybe build a better mitigation case of some sort. But she's probably told Bryan, listen, I think you're for certain going to be found guilty. And once you're found guilty, there's a very high likelihood that you're going to get the death penalty. So they tried these various things, and maybe if you could extend out the length of time before the trial actually starts, maybe you could build a better mitigation case, but it still wouldn't be enough to have a really good chance of not getting the death penalty. So they tried all these different things, the Dateline, and this was their last Hail Mary. Dateline and the 4 third-party suspects that they introduced, and Judge Hippler denied both of them. And right before that hearing, I guarantee you, they said, this is it, Bryan. This is the last chance. And when you saw the judge mentions things like, just assume we're going to start the trial when we were going to start it. It's not likely that I'm going to change my mind. I think when you saw the look on Ann Taylor's face, she kind of looked up, and even Kohberger looked up. And I think right after that hearing, even though they still went through and filed their motions, they knew that that was their last gasp, and they had no other options. And I think at that point, they said, Bryan, you're going to likely get the death penalty. We want to try to save your life. So I think we need to go forward with a plea deal. And we know Bill Thompson, he's more of a liberal type, and he's not going to want to give you the death penalty. In fact, he's never applied the death penalty on anybody. So we think we can use that to cut a deal. And it likely might mean that you aren't going to be able to appeal, but you will not be executed, and you will get life in prison without the possibility of parole, even though that's not what it is. It's 4 consecutive 40-year sentences and 10 years for the breaking and entering. And Kohberger accepted the deal. And I think that's exactly how it went down. I think Ann Taylor tried and tried and tried early on. He wouldn't accept it. He wanted to keep pushing forward. He thought he could beat the system somehow. And they tried all their different techniques. And when the 11th hour came, they said, we have a couple more things up our sleeve. And those 2 things did not work. And then they had the final discussion with Kohberger where he said, okay, I agree, I am going to plead guilty. But a lot of us feel like the Gonzalezes feel like. I understand both sides, however. I understand wanting to have this be a, kind of a closed chapter, and then you can move on healing with the family members that you have left. I totally get it. I also get the part of wanting Kohberger to feel the retribution of society on him. I mean, he deserves to have the death penalty. I don't think there's another case that is more deserving of the death penalty than this one. Bryan Kohberger took the lives of 4 amazing kids. When you read these books, I'm listening to them. I have audibles. I'm not doing an ad. I'm just saying this. I have audibles, and I listen to them, and they're just amazing. Really fun people that had a lot of talent, and they were going to move forward through life, and they were just good people. And it's interesting. Like, I didn't know Xana Kernodle at all, nor did I know Ethan Chapin, but in these books you feel like you kind of get to know them, and you really feel something for that relationship specifically because of the how they met at a some sort of a event at I think it was called the Fish Tank, where they were zip tied together and they had to hang out with each other for a certain amount of time. But anyways, they got to know each other, and they just were like 2 peas in a pod. I mean, it was really made me kind of sad just listening to how it all was, and then Kaylee and Madison just being really great friends, and even when they were in different sororities, they're always still hanging out with each other, and I thought that was pretty cool. But I think I would feel like Steve Gonzalez feels, because Kohberger deserves a death penalty. But if you look at it from a position of, okay, I think there's no doubt that a jury would find him guilty of the homicides. However, maybe one of the jurors wouldn't go for the death penalty. And I think that's where there might be a problem. So if the person doesn't vote for the death penalty, then Kohberger will get the 40 year, 160 years plus 10, but he'll then have the ability to appeal. This took that away. So it's like the second worst thing that you could get other than getting the death penalty. It's like the death penalty or this. So they got the next best thing. So for the Kohbergers out there that think he is, just covering for somebody else, you're ludicrous, okay? Nobody's going to take away their right for appeals and take that long of a sentence if they didn't do it. All right? It's just absolute garbage when people say that. But let me know in the comments if you think that's basically how it went with Bryan Kohberger and Ann Taylor, because I really, really think that that's exactly how that all went down. Kohberger, they tried. I've actually heard rumors for a long time that, and from good sources, that Ann Taylor has wanted to get a plea deal for a long time. I heard this like a year and a half ago. And I think that is what they were doing. And I think Kohberger just didn't want to. He wanted to keep fighting and fighting and fighting. But she said, man, you're going to get the death penalty here. And Kohberger, is saving his own life. I mean, how ironic is that? He didn't give two craps when he was killing those 4 kids, but now he wants to save his own life. You know, it sort of sounds like Jodi Arias. You know, remember that when she killed Travis Alexander like a barbarian? And that's a perfect example, by the way, of a case where in Arizona, if you can believe it or not, they have 2 bites at the apple. So they went for the death penalty, and it was 11-1 the first trial. And for the death penalty, only 1 person voted against. Then in Arizona, they're allowed to have a full nother trial on the penalty phase. So they went for it again, and I think it was like 10-2 or 11-1 again, and she didn't get it. And then the only option is for life in prison without parole, and that's what she got. So that was like a perfect example of what could have happened in the Kohberger case, because Jodi Arias has appealed, and she almost got another trial at one point. She, I think it was a 3-panel of judges. It was 2-1, and then they went to a larger panel. Then it was 3-2 that she didn't get a new trial. Something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was pretty crazy. But yeah, you know, let me know in the comments what you think may have happened, but I'm pretty sure what I'm saying here is what happened. I'm just using sort of information I've heard, watching the different hearings, and just kind of common sense and, you know, intuition, whatever you want to call it. That's what it feels like, all right? So I want to thank everybody for watching this video. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this little 3D model that I made with the 360 degree where you can just look around. It's pretty cool. We were going to use that if there was a trial, but apparently there isn't going to be one. We can always hope, I guess, that Kohberger you know, tries to rescind at the sentencing. You know, maybe he still has the ability to do that. I don't know. But you know, it doesn't sound like it's going to happen. But man, I worked really hard. I tried to make different exhibits and put out information that was accurate during this case, and we're still going to cover the hearing. Apparently I'm going to be on court TV a couple times, and watch out, you guys. Underneath the comments section, you're going to hear the people whining that I'm on court TV and how they're never going to watch again because I was on there. All right, but they have me on there because I actually work through these cases logically and know them. Okay, I'm not one of the sensationalistic people. I know people like sensationalism more than what I put out. You can see it in the numbers that people have. As long as you come up with some, ooh, is this possible? Oh, people love that stuff, you know. But I say, you know, there's a lot of things that are possible, but is it likely? Those are the things I talk about. What is likely? All right. And you know what I think is maybe likely is that the knife sheath was left intentionally as a calling card. Okay. But it's, you know, it's not way more likely. I think it's like 55-45. To me, it could be either way, that he left it accidentally or he left it intentionally. I hope he left it intentionally, because then he'll have to live with the fact that it's his own fault. So that might be why, even if he left it intentionally, he might not ever admit it, because it makes him look bad. All right. Anyways, thanks everybody for watching. I rambled on again there at the end. I appreciate it. And we will talk to you guys later in the evening. So thanks for watching. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.